Here's one shining example of a dude who tried to electrocute himself. Line truck. When you get in to move the truck, you lower the boom all the way down, which this gentleman decided not to do, throttled up, kept going, turned it upside down. It's a wonder he didn't electrocute himself. Oh man, some of the things you see on a daily basis around here of that. There's a truck on its side. You know, as the thing did that, when it lifted the front wheels off the ground, you would have thought he would have taken that as, hey, something's going on. No, he made a turn and go for it. Some people. I hope he was drinking his breakfast and smoking his lunch. On top of that, Amazon driver gets a delivery and it's not a shirt or a toy from China or even a gold bar from Saudi Arabia, which Trump is dominating. But she does the S on somebody's porch. Channel Fox 11 with the great Ed Lascos. Here we go.
To back, so people trying to flush out whether this was an emergency or intentional. She does look at the camera during the second act, and the family up the road says that they first thought this was a coyote, and then they checked their camera.
My kids sit there all the time on the stairs. They play basketball, and it's gross.
A real stinker. Tamara Bedoy got a special delivery with her Amazon package, number 2.
Just right here in front of the garage, just right there on the steps. That's where it happened.
Her husband left their Woodland Hills home early Sunday morning to get her Mother's Day breakfast and found the smelly surprise.
This is where the package was delivered, at the top of the stairs. Poop. And then she walked over here. And she was walking out and threw her napkins over the side.
On a roll, the delivery driver pulling up her britches does it again down the road.
It's really gross, and then to find out a little bit later that she did it again.
She did it again? And I guess Ed's coming up on or maybe he's done a transgender thing, I don't know. No, he's coming up on a later one. But she did it at this house and then went up the road and did it again? Man, oh man, what a deal. According to reports, they have fired the young lady, delivery lady, who delivered poop to 2 separate occasions in that. Oh, wow. Here's Ed Lascos. Poor man, 79-year-old, was dragged to death in Norco over a carjacking. Here's Ed back in his right sex as a male. Here we go.
Investigators out with some new information this late hour saying the victim of this carjacking, a 79-year-old man, IDing the victim as James Norman from Corona. Have a look with Joe Abbott. All goes down right over there. See it, the Arco AM/PM Mini Mart now turned into a major crime scene. Off to the left, though, look, that car wash area. See that port there with all those blue vacuums? That's important because that 79-year-old man had this SUV parked there. He had all the doors open, vacuuming out the back seat one moment, and the next he's being carjacked, hanging on as he's being dragged along the parkway. Watch. Following a trail of blood down Hidden Valley Parkway after a violent and deadly carjacking.
I hear like some lady screaming. I believe those are the workers at AM/PM. And I saw the guy in his silver van, like instead of turning right, when you come out of the gas station, you have to turn right here. No, he turned left and he was speeding up like crazy. And the girls were screaming after him, stop, stop.
That as the victim is hanging out of the rear door of his silver SUV. He's holding on for dear life as the carjacker just takes off, speeds away.
Yeah, they were screaming like, stop, stop.
The victim is dragged, ejected from the back seat a few blocks away. He's rushed to the ER where he dies. The carjacker, though, he keeps going until he's stopped by police in the Riverside area. All this as the victim is vacuuming out his SUV one moment, and the next
I hope if there's a conviction, this guy should get the death penalty times 9,432. It should be a slow death. The guillotine would be too nice of a punishment in Roy's world. Holy flippin' cow. Trump owns not only the U.S., but the world. Here he is. Here's a little bit, well, more on this later. Here's a little bit from his Saudi Arabia speech where they were loving their Trump.
The transformations have been unbelievably remarkable. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos.
It's about time we have a president who is sane and putting in policies of peace and prosperity instead of war, destruction, and tyranny. It's absolutely off the charts. This is another thing that drives me crazy. KVCR, public radio, March Joint Power Commission votes down proposed warehouse project in Riverside. No, it was not. It was an innovation center, and it was even shot down as a manufacturing building. No warehousing. We'll get to that a little bit later. Maybe as equal or even more dumber than the Hillwood decision out in Moreno Valley, but here we go. LAPD officers were ripped from a wreckage, a fiery crash. From a woman and a boy were also hurt. There's some of them, the cops getting their, I think it was a pursuit crash or something that happened in that, but 2 LAPD cops had to be rescued by LA Fire. Thank goodness they had fire trucks to get to the scene. SoCal narcos used instant noodle packs to traffic meth overseas. KTLA 5 report. Here we go.
5, I'm Cher Calvin.
And I'm Micah Ullman. Thank you for joining us. We begin here at 5 o'clock with breaking news from Norco, where a man is dead after being dragged during a carjacking. Investigators say a witness
% on the day, and people woke up to this news.
Well, where was the narco deal? Here's the deal. You put it on there. Narco used instant. Anyway, they did that. I don't know why the video didn't play that. They're playing the other one. But this is what crooks do. Crooks figure out 24/7 how to move this stuff. That's another thing of the whole Trump tariffs, immigration policy, and everything else. It's going to straighten this crap out. Another one, pursuit with armed carjacking suspect ends with a rollover crash in cars. What's with the carjacking again? Why do these things run in waves? Here's the KCAL
Carjacking
report.
investigation.
And Desmond Shaw is live overhead in Sky Cal to fill us in. Des?
Well, Pat and Rudabay, we are on Broadway just past Main here in the Carson area, and this was all because of a pursuit. It was an armed carjacking suspect that led LA County Sheriff's deputies on a pretty short but wild pursuit with a ton of mayhem. Check it out. This is the suspect's vehicle. I'm not sure how they flipped it over here, but they are now in custody. Apparently, in the midst of that pursuit, at one point they were driving on the sidewalk and hit at least one, possibly two sheriff's deputies' vehicles. They're calling it assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. So a lot of charges for this suspect. Again, the armed carjacking.
I would say that person is in a big heap of trouble, as they say. Man, oh man, is there 45 years in prison for assault for a 24-year-old sexual assault defendant in Eastville. Some of the stuff we see is in this world truly heartbreaking. There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday live at 5 on the Ebook Bean Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, all that good stuff. Check us out, subscribe. Wild and Woolly Taco Tuesday. So, locally, the misinformation goes on from the Inland Empire to the District of Criminals to Saudi Arabia, around Australia, and back and it's just, I guess that's why the world's round. Nothing ever seems to stop. Sometimes it seems like we're spinning in circles all the time. We're making peace across the world as Trump is doing, with a resounding welcome to Saudi Arabia, where he's announcing more deals on peace and prosperity as we speak. Sadly, we had the misinformation and campaign on a innovation center here at the March JPA Center, which is part of the original March Field, March Air Force Base property. All the stuff that got redevelopment where the old bomb dump was, Arnold Heights. All that stuff, the Hap Arnold Golf Club or whatever the hell it was. And they took the last piece of property in that whole complex is some 800 acres. Most of it was going to be used as open space. Lewis Group proposed an innovation center with manufacturing, high tech, and the people said no. Truck traffic, warehouse, logistics, truck traffic, all die of diesel smoke. First place, it was not a warehouse. It was not logistics. It was actually manufacturing, like bringing jobs back to America like Trump's been talking about. And you had the kooks from whatever environmental justice this and truck traffic, and we're all going to die of diesel smoke and bad jobs and the whole thing. In order to rebuild our economy, if we want it to where people have opportunity, high-tech manufacturing is going to provide very high wage paying jobs for a lot of people in every class you can imagine. The guy cleaning the toilets, to the electrician keeping it working. Like I said, a guy that can read a multimeter, a guy or a gal that can read a multimeter and understand electricity instead of like the dude we introed in trying to electrocute himself with the line truck in the lines. Throttle down. Oh, it didn't work. We pulled the wheels off the ground. Now that didn't work. Well, we'll throttle it up some more turn and we'll flip her over. No, you want your kids, your grandkids, and future generations to have a future. That's going to be one of the main industries. That's what Trump's talking about. Howard Lutnick, Scott Bessent, Peter Navarro, and the crew have been talking about and working on and actually doing. One of the things we're talking about when he's over there in Saudi Arabia. Oh, we don't want that here in the Inland Empire. And again, the reason you got the truck traffic is because the vast 98.7% of you want to go do. You want to order on your phone and look and scroll. You don't want to go to the store. You don't want to shop locally. Then you want the Amazon driver to come up to your house and poop on your porch as they're leaving the package. This is the economy we built. You vote for that every day, every second when you're doing the do and buying the Chinese junk and all the stuff. So with that comes the logistics buildings, the distribution centers, the traffic on the freeway, and it comes to the way you guys voted. We all voted. To the politicians that stole all the money to improve the roads, to make the infrastructure work, and then drive the cost through the moon. You wanted slave labor from the construction industry to the dude mowing your lawn. So a few could make gigabillions of dollars, because that's who profited off of it, while your future, your jobs, and more importantly, kids and grandkids' jobs are getting flushed down the toilet. So what the Joe Biden experience, let's put it that way, has proved to us. Nope, we'll have time today, but in the New Yorker, big article, David Fluff, who ran the Obama campaign and the ill-fated Harris campaign, said we got F by Joe Biden. The Democrats did. Thank God he did that. I mean, we really got a lot to thank Biden for. Either way, we were going to get Trump. If Biden stayed in, we were going to get Trump. And they ultimately went with the dingbat, complete idiot, Kamala Harris, which cemented Trump being the 45th and 47th president of the United States. So it's going to be an interesting role in all of this stuff. But it's still, and to get on the Trump theme or to bring it in, you know, he's cutting the funding for National Public Radio, public broadcasting system, you know, the KVCR radio TV, you know, KCT, whatever, out in LA, the TV station, whatever, and rightfully so. So like I said in the intro, like with the project out there at the base, March Joint Powers Commission votes down proposed warehouse project in Riverside. It was never proposed as a warehouse project. It's always sold as a manufacturing project, as an innovation center. Like Chuck Condor explained, instead of having the park in the middle and the other stuff on the outside, the buildings and everything, they went, and when Lewis Company or Group came in, they said, that's stupid. Let's put the buildings in the center and let's put the park area in. Because Condor put it out there, the great Chuck Condor, council member and career military man, retired from Riverside, said, each of you, for $80 million, $20 million from the city of Riverside, $20 million from the city of Moreno Valley, $20 million from the city of Paris, and $20 million for the county of Riverside, are going to have to, most likely, going to have to build a court-mandated park. Lewis Company's group was going to come in and do that as part of the development agreement when they came in and built the building. This is why, like KVCR, public broadcasting, is going to get the federal funds cut. because they can't post the truth. I don't know what's so hard about this. But everybody gets up there and, oh, we're all going to die of diesel smoke. That's a warehouse, logistics. We don't like that. Bad jobs. We don't like those people in our area. Again, where's the racism coming from? Well, it got shot down. If Lewis Companies pulls out, and they said it's going to be 4 or 5 years, even if they pick it back up, because they got to, once this vote was to throw the project, was the ultimate vote to throw the whole project out. Now they got to start over again. That is a minimum of a project like this, like they did before. I think they took more than 5 years, minimum 5 years. In the meantime, if the court comes in and says, you know what, you cities, we're going to have to build that park, which we have mandated. If you don't start building the park, we're going to start fining you on top of that. So the geniuses at the March JPA, which is two from each jurisdiction, Paris, Mike Vargas, the mayor, and I forget the other young lady's name. She's newly elected. They both voted against it. Much as I was surprised, Ulysses Cabrera and Ed Delgado, our council members, were voted for it. Moreno Valley was the only entity that voted unanimously to continue with the project. They said it was not going to be a warehouse, it was going to be manufacturing, and they had to go through the county, which I think was a real cop-out. Split, county supervisors, Medina no, X-Men yes. Same with Riverside, Perry no, Condor yes. 4-4 means it goes down because you got to have a majority. I don't know. It's strange days indeed. That's the last piece that's going to be developed in that area. I mean, the opposition put on a hell of a show. I mean, there was people all up and down, and they were chanting and singing hymns and the whole thing. 100,000%, 111% all on emotion on their side. Zero facts. Again, I was surprised Moreno Valley was the only entity that voted unanimously for it. We'll see what happens, but you can thank Medina, Vargas, Jim Perry, and that other young lady from Paris. I can't remember her name. If each of your cities has to cough up $20 million in this to build that park, it's like Randall Lewis said, this project is going to take the region's brain drain by keeping skilled workers in the Inland Empire, and we voted it out. Truly stunning. Man, it's, there was only, 50, 60 acres of this? 500 acres of open space park. We're going to get a new fire station on top of it. And like Ulysses Cabrera said, Moreno Valley is going to pay $20 million for a park. It's not in our area, not in our city limits. You got to drive through the cluster foxtrot of a freeway across there to get to it. And I got to explain to my residents why we're spending $20 million in a park that we can't hardly use. Again, we got to stop running on 111% emotion. Men got to stand up in this thing. Sadly, most of them didn't at the JPA meeting, but you know, it's a wonder. It's no wonder we have stuff like this going on. The economy you guys want, and you voted for, and then you gripe about all this. Why aren't you saying, hey, you know, I'm glad they S on my porch when they're delivering the packages? Don't know what it's going to take. Well, we're either going to fix this stuff, we're going to get behind guys like Trump, or we're going to go down in flames. Just no other way around it. But we shall see.
Got about 30 seconds, Roy.
Of that, yes, 30 more seconds, we'll get to mighty. We might cover a little bit of this, but we got some other stuff to get to on that. When we join the Mighty Met, KMET 1490 AM, it's the highs, the good, the bad, the ugly, the lows, all that other stuff. We cover them all here. Like nobody.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
On Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Med 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video nights on the Evil Hippie Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, all that good stuff. Check us out, subscribe on all that. Donald J. Trump in Saudi Arabia getting a resounding welcome, bringing peace and prosperity not only to the United States, but across the world. And on that scene, we have nothing but a brighter outlook of that. We're forcing the vagrants to be dealt with. We're forcing the illegals to go back to their country. We're saying we're forcing the American people are not going to be financing the wartocracy that's been going on for far too many decades. We just can't afford it anymore. And I want to say this about Trump. Okay, even if you want to go for $1 trillion military budget, the other countries should be paying half of this. We've got to cut the spending here in the United States. Last budget was a little over $800 billion. Now they're proposing $1 trillion. Which, if the Saudis and Japan and Germany and Ukraine and everybody else is kicking in half of that and paying it to us, fine and dandy. But we could drop $300 billion we need off of our budget to do that, which I think is very, if we don't do the war machine, we could probably, like Trump said in his speech yesterday, it's a shame that we have to spend that much money in unproductive uses, and that's what he's trying to do. So, and I agree with him. So let's get everyone to pay their fair share. This WTO, no, that's World Health Organization. Well, them too. But United Nations, all these other goofy screwball organizations, NATO, all these alliances, whatever. Fine. Cut us a check. We'll go half. You guys figure out $500 billion to figure out how you're going to pay it. Come out of your budget. Canada, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Arab Emirates, or whatever the hell it's called. Taiwan, India. I don't care how you guys figure it out, slice up the pie, just cut the check. Pass the hat. I don't care. That way we could reduce our deficit by $300 billion, which we desperately need to do. So no tax increases. Steve Bannon's off on this, we're going to tax the rich kind of crap. That's never worked. Every time they have raised tax rates on the rich, they have gotten less revenue in. It's not how you raise revenue, Steve. You raise revenue by production. You're a finance guy. You were on Wall Street. You understand this. I know you're trying to promote and you're making a big name for yourself or whatever, trying to promote that I'm the working class guy. But you know damn well what you're talking about ain't going to work. You're not that dumb. In fact, you're a pretty intelligent guy. So let's get on the right bandwagon. And you are on the right bandwagon that we need to reduce spending. Military spending is the biggest chunk, or a big chunk that we can get rid of. And that's how we get rid of it, not raising taxes on whomever to pay for the military budget. So, want to finish up on Trump's intro in Saudi Arabia, where he was greeted with a resounding welcome. Here we go.
Nations have been unbelievably remarkable. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that.
Right there. You wouldn't have probably seen that 10 years ago. You would not have seen the rich Saudi sheiks applauding Donald J. and saying, hey, we're going to have to knock these inner nationality conflicts that have been going on since recorded history. We're going to have, we can't afford it. Not only we can't afford it dollar-wise, the gazillions of lives lost over this, over 10, 20,000, or however long this has been going on. You can always make more money once you're off this face of the earth. You ain't a coming back. It's over.
And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end,
So what Trump is explaining is a very unique fact in all of recorded history. When people experience prosperity, when they see a better quality of life, when they're living it, they don't want to go. They are 10 times more resistant of going back to the old way. That's why you're seeing the resounding warm welcome and acceptance of what should have always been the reality was becoming the reality today. That we're all going to live in peace and prosperity in this world from this point forward.
So-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love.
Everybody's not going to agree. Everybody's not going to live the same exact lifestyle. But we got to figure out how to live without trying to beat each other over the head with a club every day. That, like it started out in the Neanderthal days, we just got bigger clubs today. The U.S. having the biggest one. So that's why the optimistic thing is if we can get that type of feeling, if you want to go in the emotional part, that type of people just treating others with respect. People, everyone dealing with the facts of the case. Like I lit off the hearing yesterday at Riverside County at the March JPA meeting. Let's deal with facts. If you just don't want something in your area, if you're against, like an innovation hub, like was voted down last night, then be against it. But don't make up false crap. Don't say a innovation center is a logistics building or a warehouse or whatever you're trying to do. Just say, hey, just man up and say, I want our region to go backwards. Fine, I can have respect for it, not agree, you may not agree. But if you're just dealing with the facts of the case and you say, I just don't want anything in here, not in my backyard, the whole thing, I'm not for progress, I'm not for high-paying jobs, anything else, I'm going to lie, cheat, and steal to get what I want. How are you different than the common crook? That's what they do. So hopefully people will learn their lesson. If you want to celebrate, yeah, we can win if we lie, cheat, and steal. Well, that's a reflection on you guys that did that last night. Just like whatever Trump does, or Joe Biden, or Kamala, or whomever, Victor Manuel Perez, all of them, Jose Medina, to the X-Men, and everybody in between in our public lives. But that's one thing, Trump lays it out. You either like it, you don't like it, that's fine. If you want to be a fake news, if you want to be a knucklehead, if you want to ask stupid questions, then he's going to treat you that way. You know, this whole respect, kindness thing is a virtue to strive for, but it is an earned virtue. You don't give respect to people who are not respectable. And that's what we see progress. I see progress nationally. California, not as much. We were down further in the ditch, in the hole, and dug ourselves deeper than just about anybody else in the world. So it's going to take a while, maybe a bit longer to straighten it out here. But again, what Trump said in that 2 minutes in his opening there at Saudi Arabia, very powerful. And it comes from the actions that he has done. And that's why he has the respect of nations like Saudi Arabia that used to hate our freaking guts. You know, infidels, we're going to kill them all. To, hey, we have seen the light. And hopefully we can capitalize more on that. One thing I want to get to, you know, and even though I have a disagreement with Steve Bannon on the tax the rich thing, as the great financial guru EJ, I'll get it out, EJ Antoni said yesterday when he was on with Steve, you know, I agree we need to work on a lot of the stuff, but in your example of, oh, we're going to tax the millionaires or the billionaires or whatever, that has never worked. But one thing, he had John Solomon on, and this is, you know, because, of course, this is my world, or one of my parts of my world, is the public policy, speaking at the public meetings, practicing your First Amendment right of free political speech, and redressing grievances with your government. And the whole deal of, you know, where during the whole Harris-Biden administration, they were trying to weaponize the government along with teachers, because they didn't want, especially the teachers didn't like us calling them out at the school board meetings saying, you're a bunch of lazy blanks sitting out there with the COVID and you're trying to keep it going because you guys don't want to go back to work. And name me the school where the teachers are sitting out there. Well, the kids' future was getting flushed down the drain because you guys wouldn't show up at school. You didn't sit there at the school and demand they open it up. Believe me, if you guys would have done that, they'd have had them schools open. Even Newsom would have had the schools open faster than you could shake a stick, because he knows the golden rule. He does the gold, makes the rules. You guys have given $200 million as teachers over the last 20 years or so. Biggest contributors to most politicians that have gotten elected in Fruitcake, California. But again, here he is on with John Solomon with an update on how we got hosed. Here we go.
Said that this Tulsi report that she put, declassified a couple weeks ago, and as you know, he may even have more years than you have, Solomon, of doing this. He said it's one of the most shocking things he's ever seen, because it was the U.S. government at the highest levels that were actually going to to look at Americans in something that dwarfed what happened with the FBI and the CIA back in the 60s and 70s. You've got more updates on this. So once again, tell this audience what this document is, the courage of Tulsi Gabbard to do it in her first 100 days of being in office.
Yeah.
And where do we stand with this now, sir?
Well, the good news is in the statement last night, Tulsi Gabbard made clear that this is no longer an operating document, meaning that no federal law enforcement official shall rely on this 2021 memo written by the Biden White House and its National Security Council, changing the standards for how people would be investigated for domestic terrorism. And let's just remind people what the standard's been for decades. Since those abuses in the 60s and 70s, the FBI has always had a thing called a predicate. A predicate requires you, if you're going to open up an investigation, to have a reasonable factual basis that a crime has occurred. The Biden White House, in a classified document that they hid from the American people and from Congress, changed that standard in June of 2021 to you can open up and target an American if they're engaged in concerning non-criminal behavior. They eviscerated the civil liberty protections of the 1960s and 70s reforms.
That was done by teachers. Randy Weingarten, American Federation of Teachers, and that whole enchilada. We went through it. They sent the letters. Then they denied it to Merrick Garland, who was U.S. Attorney General under Harris Biden. They tried denying it until those documents and emails leaked out. Now we're getting Biden lowered the standards. Well, we don't have to have a reasonable idea, evidence to investigate Roy talking at the school board. We just don't like what he's saying, so we can put him into jail. How is that different than Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, Joe Stalin, Idi Amin, or any other tyrant, dictator, piece of crap that's ever ruled over people with that type of iron fist? Fidel Castro's probably applauding, if he's up there, if there is a heaven, saying, I wish I would have had this kind of balls or ability to pull this one off in the United States. This is how close. This is how close the United States was to becoming a third world tin horn dictatorship. At best. Totally violating the Constitution, the rule of law, and every other just fellow respect for the 350 or so million people in the United States. That you don't have to be afraid to criticize or state or whatever your concerns to your government officials. No, we just want to do it however we want to do it. Again, Biden, Harris didn't have enough balls to come out and say this is what we're doing, like Trump does every frickin' day. They just changed the rules, started doing it, then denied it after they did it. Then after they were exposed what they did, then they just acted like it didn't happen. Again, who goes to jail?
It meant that if someone was concerned about you, they can open up on you and take the full force of the government. And it explains why we saw FBI agents out at school board meetings writing down license plates of parents who did no criminal activity, why they were targeting members of the military, why they were going after Catholics and coming up with a plan to spy on Catholics in Latin masses, and why they were looking at gun owners. A direct order from the Biden White House to the entire federal law enforcement told you, you no longer have to protect civil liberties. You can simply investigate someone if they do something that's concerning to you. Now,
yeah, what kind of standard is that? Again, every tin-horn dictator has practiced that exact same thing. You want to holler about Putin isn't this bad. And he's a big a-hole. I don't think anyone disputes that. It's getting to be a bizarre world when you had more freedoms in Russia than you did the United States. Thank goodness. Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Peter Navarro Besant, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, and I'm leaving some out, but the whole crew. The whole freaking crew. Of Trump 2.0 is on it at every capacity. Trump 1.0, this would have never come out. Even Marco Rubio, who I had some big doubts on, has been very surprising. Because he came in with the Bushes there in Florida under the Jeb Bush deal and was a big cheerleader. So was JD. They've both been pleasant surprises when named Secretary of State and Vice President under Trump. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need to watch them very carefully, make sure they're not double agenting us. But along with the whole team coming in, look how it's affecting California. I mean, just the tone of everything, sans what happened last night in Riverside. But even the tone, look at Gavin Newsom he doesn't know which way to go. He's taking political arrows from every angle now, along with like the Karen Basses and everyone else. So it'll be fun. We'll see how this all works out. We'll be headed here in a few minutes to the Moreno Valley Crime Syndicate, otherwise known as School District and Board meeting. See if there's any FBI. Well, now I don't have to worry about if that guy sitting in the parking lot's an FBI agent writing down the license plates. Oh my, it'll be fun. But we'll get it. It's still very interesting times. There's still a lot of work to do. We can't rest on our laurels. Still got to flesh out the last resemblance of boys and girls sports. Maybe we'll get more into that tomorrow or Thursday. Hopefully we'll get Susan Shelley back on now that the phones seem to be working. Brighter days are ahead. That'll do it for today. Mandatory, as we say at this time. Back here in 23 Hours Why. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
The proceeding was a paid.
All right, Roy. So your phones are screwed up again?
No, they were. No, I did get them working yesterday, obviously, because Kelly was like, no, they were out from Wednesday till Monday. I got them working like about 2 o'clock on Monday, or finally they got them all fixed.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, that's why I didn't have well, you weren't there, but didn't have Susan. I discovered, well, Wednesday I did, and I mean I had to go through 4 or 5 days of yanking with Frontier to get them to finally fix the situation.
Oh, jeez. So what was, I mean, they had to actually come out and
It's
fix
over
it,
in
huh?
their system. They had it where, I mean, I guess they got two different systems. My phone system at the office was on a different system than my phone was supposed to be hooked
Ah.
to my modem. It was on a different system back there in the office, so it wasn't communicating.
Oh, brother.
Took
All
them
right,
5 days to figure that out.
Oh, jeez. All right, Roy, I'll talk to you Friday.
You got it.